What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. I'm joined today by BJJ Black Belt and regular on the podcast, Nick Chewy Albin. I'm also joined by BJJ Purple Belt, Justin Court. We are fresh off of competing at the Master Worlds in Vegas. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Some cool stuff going on at the gym with some belt promotions. And also, Justin's going to tell us a little bit about his vacation /surf /BJJ trip that he gets together every year to get a bunch of guys just training in a resort and on the beach, and it's awesome food, and I hope you guys stick around. I hope you enjoy what we have. Thanks. Everybody's nervous today.
I'm not nervous.
Chewy's nervous. God, that was stumpy.
Gotta pee.
You gotta pee now?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
I think this is. I don't know which one this is. I think this is the one. This one may
the
not be
rapey.
I don't know what it's gonna taste like. He said this one may not be that good.
This one says nice melons on it.
From Joe?
No, this is another guy telling me.
Am I gonna mix beers? I'm chasing beer with beer. I've got that nitro thing.
Oh, you got the nitrous.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is like.
What does it taste like? Lemony goodness?
No, I feel like I'm drinking Dawn.
Dawn, like the detergent?
Like the dish soap.
Mm-hmm.
Please enunciate and tell us what you are drinking and why.
I'm drinking Dawn dish soap, but in the form of beer.
Oh my god.
Beer. I just have to publish it from here, not my damn phone.
What are you publishing? Justin's up there working.
No, just the next Costa Rica BJJ /surf retreat that I think Eugene Tozic should go to.
You know what, man?
But,
I've got the baby.
You and the wife and the baby can go.
Man, I would love to go, actually. That'd be
Give me
incredible.
the couples.
You guys
discount.
fucking went to the Philippines.
I know, and it was not my choice.
She
Don't
could do
tell
her
me why.
yoga. She could do massages while she's there on all.
She make some money?
I mean, she could go fucking
could.
climb some trees if
She
she wants to.
absolutely-
Actually,
Dude,
Is she a monkey?
honestly,
Fucking
listen,
on those
listen to
fucking-
me, because they hire
just
someone to come in and give us massages.
All right,
And
let's
it's
talk
$60
about
per person.
She makes more money than that.
Well, I'm just saying that's But I mean, okay, all right.
Hey, you know what? Honestly?
I'm sure she does.
No.
it's
Honestly.
good shit too.
Just trying to get you to go on my trip, man.
No, I'd love to go, actually. Sounds fucking amazing. Like, okay, I want to go
See, this should be on the podcast.
do beer, eat fresh fruit, surf,
Hang out with your buddies.
hang out with my buddies, train jiu-jitsu. I mean, that's really, there's not much else to
It's
it.
like a vacation with training.
Guess what,
and
Justin?
You got your wife. It'd be
Surprise! It is on the podcast because I'm recording.
awesome. That's awesome, dude. I love it. Good. Should I get nervous now?
Yeah, are you nervous yet?
No, not at all. But honestly, that's I encourage it because couples, I think it's like
I don't know, man. I'd love to go.
It's a great thing just to get away. You can train.
What am I
Your
going to do
wife
with my
obviously
kid?
doesn't train.
What do I do with my kid? Just put him in a box somewhere?
There's howler monkeys there, and they can take
Monkeys?
care of them. Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen the Jungle Book?
Yeah.
I don't think the monkeys are taking care of.
Dude, monkeys will steal your kid and like run off
What's his
into
name? It's not Tarzan. The Jungle Book. Mowgli. Yeah.
Mowgli.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna have a 3-month-old at the time. So.
You're taking him with you? Her?
Yeah, I believe so.
Samson.
If it doesn't work out,
Chewy, I'm just going to have to edit all this
if
shit
it doesn't
out.
work out, I can always
It's such a pain in my ass.
bring a family member to babysit or something along those lines. It's just an awesome trip.
Yeah, well, Justin, since we're talking about it, I want to know about it. Tell me more. Tell me, how would I convince my wife to want to go to this thing?
Well, if you have the itch to go on any vacation, you want to go somewhere tropical, you want to escape the cold, especially here in Kentucky and the Midwest in general, out of the snow. Man, Costa Rica is just an awesome place. It's their dry season.
When do you all go? What time of the year?
The date for this retreat is January 21st through the 28th of 2017. And so to convince your wife, I mean, really, there's not that much to convince as far as, Costa Rica, for people that want to go on this trip, I think it appeals to most people that want to train jiu-jitsu twice a day in the jungle.
What
and
if
then
you
also
don't?
surf.
What
if you don't, and we've had couples come where, the husband would be training and the wife is not. And there's plenty of other things to do if she's into working out or just wanting to take a yoga class. They have TRX, which is the bands from the top.
That was very distracting.
So you can work out.
Yeah.
The other person, your significant other, can work out or just hit the beach or hit the pool.
So
while you're training,
how often do you all train when you go there?
Typically, the schedule runs
all
runs
day.
like it's twice a day.
Per day.
We'll train once in the morning when it's cool. We'll do no-gi.
Right.
And that usually lasts typically about an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We have about an hour and a half to 2 hour block on the mat each day.
Okay.
So that'll be in the morning, and I can go over the actual rundown of the schedule, which is pretty simple. And then we'll train in the evening or early evening, late afternoon, about 3:30 to 4:30, 5 o'clock. And the time in between is downtime, which you can go to the beach, you can surf, you can just hang out by the pool, you can sit in a hammock, you can go explore around town, you can go on a hike, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do.
Right.
It's not limited to anything really. It's just this is what we offer, and most people decide to get as much beach time as they can. And
Right. I mean, just working out. I mean, anyways, you just working out or doing some jiu-jitsu. It's only about an hour and a half. If you get up pretty early in the morning and get done with class, you have the rest of your day to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to train every day. If you
No.
want to take a day off, a lot of people are probably used to training continuously every day, twice a day. So maybe
Exactly.
you can modify. And who have you had in the past? You've done this in the past. Who have you had? Like,
let's back up. If you want to know, I actually went on a retreat 2 years ago in 2014, and all I was doing was just a search, looking where I could go and train in Costa Rica because I had always wanted to go, and I've been surfing off and on throughout my life growing up.
Yeah.
And so I found a retreat, and I did some people out in New York, a black belt named Ariel Medina, and he was actually the guy teaching the week that I went. And it was a 7-day all-inclusive retreat that I, purchased. And when I was there, the whole time I was there, man, I was just having a blast. I mean, I would wake up in the mornings and just do everything I could. I was wearing myself out. But while I was there, and the whole time, I became friends with the owners of the Jungle's Edge, which is in Nosara, Costa Rica. And they welcome anybody and everybody with open arms. And they say, hey, we're trying to be the number one retreat center in Costa Rica for martial arts, for yoga, for what have you. And so I just decided, just with no experience whatsoever, never done anything like this before, I said, I want people that I know, that I'm surrounded by, that I'm influenced by in jiu-jitsu and martial arts here in Kentucky, to experience the same thing and make it affordable to where if someone wanted to go on vacation and train, which most people, I think most jiu-jitsu guys and girls, when they leave somewhere and they go on a vacation, they want to find a gym, at least get 1, maybe 2 trainings in.
Right.
I've found that to be true. And so I put this together, and the first person I had when I came back in mind was Renato Tavares. At the time, we were under the affiliation with Renato, and I took a trip down to Florida and actually spoke with him, went to his gym and trained there, and he was all for it. Basically, lead my camp, lead my retreat for the week.
Right.
I'll get the people, and you just show up and teach, a week-long camp in jiu-jitsu. And it was a successful one. I had my black belt, who's here, Nick Chewy Albin, and then 2 other black belts that were there, Jason Keaton and then Piet Wilhelm. They all were there. So it was pretty amazing. Every trip I've had, except for the second one, which I actually had no black belt there. It was just a smaller retreat for a group of people. But the last 2 that I've had were, about 3 to 4 black belts on the mat every time. And so this last retreat in January of 2016, I had Nick Chewy, and then of course Sean Hammonds. He was the guy that I wanted to lead the retreat this time.
Sean Michael Hammonds.
Sean Michael Hammonds,
who is one of the greatest country singers of all time.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, one of the nights we were sitting around the campfire on the beach, and with a couple local guys that come in and train, they took us to a nice little spot that was kind of away from everything, and it was just a private, secluded beach, and we had our own campfire, and he had his guitar, and my buddy Andrew, who lives down in Costa Rica, he had a harmonica, and man, they had a jam session. It was awesome, and just taken way out of your element. You have a country singer / jiu-jitsu black belt, high level. He's won the Pan Ams a few times, and also a silver medalist at the Worlds. just playing country music, playing some guitar riffs on the beach, and there's about 10, 11, 12 of us hanging out. And,
So Justin, what do you think? Like, oh my God, what is this? All right,
Shawn Michaels' theme song.
it's really loud.
Sorry, I didn't know his name was Shawn Michaels the other day, and I always wanted to do that.
Shawn Michaels.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
By the way, I want to just say that
Hear me, bro.
that
Please.
Chewy's had like 1/3 of a beer and he's already like drunk.
No,
He's got this look on his
Eyes
face.
are getting glazed
I
over.
just got done training, and I had one beer already.
You have not.
I had the Yingling earlier.
I don't know
Oh,
what
yeah.
you're talking about. Justin, so what do you think sets your trip apart from maybe some other trips out there? What do you think is like maybe makes it unique?
Man, great question. I've seen a few other trips out there, and I've looked at a handful of them. I've seen the ones where you can go on the vacation cruise on a boat. I know they just had one recently. And other places in Costa Rica. Here's what separates mine from the rest of the others that I've found. That, you're... Most of the time when you go on a retreat, whether it be a horseback riding retreat, a yoga retreat, just a martial arts specific, what you're getting for the retreat that I offer is a 2-in-1. And if you look online, and you can do this search on your own, if you just look at horseback riding retreats, for instance, I mean, they're high dollar, and you're only doing that one thing.
Right.
Now, you can do other things a la carte, like go zip lining or go on a paddle, stand-up paddleboard tour or whatever. But what we offer is you're guaranteed to have the option to train twice a day, every day. On top of that, you're able to surf. So it's a surf retreat incorporated with Jiu-Jitsu. So it's a 2-in-1. And if you combine those two, I mean, you're basically getting two for the price of one.
So here's an important question for us fat kids. Is food included?
Absolutely. So it's a 7-day all-inclusive retreat with your lodging options. You have two choices. And you get to eat some of the best Costa Rican cuisine I've had. And it's 3 times a day. So you wake up, you have a breakfast. There's plenty of food go around.
Awesome.
And midday, we have an elaborate lunch. And then dinner is served up well, man. I mean, for as much as the average person is doing on a daily basis, like here in the U.S., when you go down there, you're burning up twice the amount of calories. So you're taking in probably double the amount you normally would, and it's just awesome. I think that's one of the highlights of the trip is people just rave about the food.
Who do you expect, maybe like any black belts, who do you expect on this trip coming?
Well, this year, it's starting to gain a lot more popularity, especially within the Sean Hammond's Association and abroad. I know I have received a few emails from people that I don't know that are, from different affiliations, different teams, and all over the country. But I definitely have Nick Chewy Albin. This will be a 3-peat for him. I'm always stoked to have my coach here because he brings a lot to the table. And, of course, Sean Hammonds. I know Kenneth Degenhart will be back. He went on the retreat last year, and it's funny because just on that note, I had 2 black belts that were there on the retreat. Well, Sean was actually delayed a day coming in due to weather flying out of Nashville. So, luckily I had 2 badass black belts that were there to kind of teach the guys and girls that had showed up on this retreat a few things before Sean got there. So this year, there's a few black belts in the association that I'm not too familiar with that I do know are interested. I know Jordan Sullivan, which I do know him for one. He actually on one of his podcasts was talking about coming this year.
And he's from Triple Crown.
Yeah, Triple Crown MMA up in Cincinnati. If you're up in that way, definitely drop in.
He's Sean Hammond's affiliate as well.
Yeah, he's one of Sean's black belts and
so
all around badass.
Yeah, I met Kenny in Vegas, which was he's an interesting character.
Kenny is the man.
Kenny's fun. So we met him. We all went to the Master Worlds a couple weeks ago in Vegas, which was an interesting experience. Probably by far the biggest tournament I've ever done. Have you guys ever competed in the Worlds before? Or is this the first time for...
I've never done the Worlds. I've done the Pans, but never the Worlds, so that's my first.
Okay.
Yeah, first for me as well.
So you've done... Chewy, what are some of the bigger tournaments you've done?
I mean, Pans is the biggest.
Pans biggest? How many times have you competed in that?
I've only competed in the Pans twice. And then I was supposed to go to one more year, but the Pans is usually the biggest one that they have.
Okay.
If I'm correct, I think the Pans is the biggest tournament every year because it's like, is it 5,000?
It's 5 days. They
Okay,
usually start on a Wednesday evening.
Okay.
And go all the way till Sunday.
Because I remember back when like Jiu-Jitsu really started to pick up, maybe 2012, I think was kind of the first year where they were like blown away by the numbers, and there was like 3,000 competitors.
So they have white belts there too. They have white belts.
Yeah, because back in the day, the Pans used to be only blue belt and up, and then, now they white. I think Pans I guess was white belts, but Worlds was blue belt. Now they let the Worlds say that white belts do too. I guess regular Worlds. I can't remember, but they allow white belts to do everything now. Yeah.
They weren't,
and they're huge divisions, dude. They're like white belt divisions and blue belt divisions are like 150 people or something. Dude, they're massive.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a large
57
percentage.
Was huge.
A large percentage of the competitors.
Just how many times have you done the Pans?
I have done 4 times total.
How many times have you won the Pans?
I won the Pan Ams 3 times.
What is there anything in particular that like drove you to compete at the Pans? I mean, besides just like, because there's regional tournaments all the time.
Yeah. It's funny. One of my close training partners here, Nick Pavone, he was a blue belt at the time. This was back in 2011, 2012. And he went out to the Pan Ams. I didn't even know what the heck the Pan Ams were. I knew it was a larger tournament that was held typically out in the West Coast in California. And I remember him going out there and competing, and he's a pretty tough dude, and he did okay. He actually lost by, I think, an advantage to the guy that ended up winning that year. And so I told him, he said, not this year, but next year I'll go. And it was a goal that I had set. And anyway, long story short, I decided to go out there, and I did really well. I was able to submit 2 out of 3 of my opponents, and I won the gold in the finals with the rear naked choke.
Nice.
And I didn't really realize the magnitude of it at the time, but I was like, this is obviously where I feel like I should be competing every year, just make it an annual thing. And so I advanced or I ranked up into a blue belt and decided to go out and as a new blue belt and compete in the Pan Ams, and I did really well that year, and then the following year in 2012 as a white belt, 2013 as a blue, and talk about a huge leap in progression from the belts. But even as my third year, competing in the Pan Ams as a blue belt, I feel like I gained so much, and that was a lot of fun. And then I won that one, and then I went out as a purple belt for the first time in 2015, and had a good match. I actually fought the first guy I fought was the guy that I won as a white belt against as a white belt, and so it was funny to meet up with him again, match up with him. Here we are, purple belts, and then it didn't go in my favor that year, first year as a purple. But at least at the Pan Ams, I lost due to a ref's decision.
Oh, that's always fun.
And the score was 2-2. He swept me, and I swept him back. And then, which is funny because that guy was actually the guy I was really looking forward to fighting this year at the Worlds.
Right.
But in 2016, this year, I didn't go out to the Pan Ams. I had some other things in my life come about, and so I decided to sit that one out to focus on the Worlds.
So we just got back from the Worlds a couple weeks ago. Chewy looks really drunk.
I'm just listening.
He's a good listener.
So let me just break. So Chewy, myself, and Justin all went out to the Worlds. Do you all feel like the trip was a success? Like as far as going out there and doing.
Yes.
We can just call it. Okay. So Chewy, you had 2 matches. You won the first, lost the second.
Sure.
So what makes you feel like that was going out to that big ass tournament and. What made it successful for you?
Well, I mean, one is nothing kind of gets you fired up as much as a loss, right? Because you go out there and you're like, especially because the loss wasn't, it was a mistake. It wasn't like someone just, plowed over me and just destroyed me and made me feel stupid. It was like, man, I messed up. But also, like, the biggest thing is that, like, us going out there competing at a big tournament like that, I've got all these guys inside the gym that are all fired up and ready to compete. And so basically, you're getting, it's being inspiration to all those people below us that are like, oh, fuck, they're out there doing it. We got to do it too. So, like, I mean, depending on what happens with the Nogi Pans, right now I've got upwards of 10 people that want to do it. Like, you know, I mean, shit, like, that's great. Like,
right.
You know, that's a hell of a squad to take from Louisville, Kentucky up to New York, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're already looking at, like, the Charlotte Open, so people are kind of getting, you know, interested more in competing, so that's great. But also there was a lot of things that, like, again, you always take away little, like, lessons. Like, one is, you know, you look at people competing and it's one of those things where it came out and it's like, look, man, like, this is a game. It's not not about who's the best at jiu-jitsu. You know, it's about who's the best at playing the game. That's what it is. It's, I mean, we can say whatever. I mean, there's some guys that are like, if you're in that, like, top upper tier level, like the upper crust of jiu-jitsu, those guys are obviously the best guys at jiu-jitsu. They're just fucking insane. Their technical knowledge as well as their execution of it is insane. But for most people, it's not about who's the best. It's like who plays the game the best that day, right? Because you see a ton of matches that were won on a takedown or an advantage, you know, and stuff like that. And that's not, to me, that's not a representative of like the quality of your jiu-jitsu. Just like that's the game.
You just hit your move,
right? So that's one of the things that are coming back in here. It's like, okay, like we did our little mock tournament this week with everybody, and kind of getting all the guys to understand when you compete, it's a game, and then we're going to do those all the time. So it's, you know, one of the things that we were talking about this week was, when you lose, it makes you question things a lot. Sure. You go back to the drawing board and you're like questioning yourself, your training methods, the way that you went out there and did things, everything. You question everything. And that's good because it makes you look inward and then figure out how to fix the problems that were there and then say, okay, now let's move forward and so we can progress. You know?
So, a little bit of background. The guy that you went against at the Worlds the first round, you actually faced him before in another tournament. We hit on this in the past. What tournament was that?
The Atlanta Pro.
Atlanta Pro. So you lost on advantage?
No, I lost by points. So he swept me to mount. So he got 6. And then I quickly, you know, got out of that and then regained guard, swept him, got on top. So I was down 4 points. I had a submission attempt. I almost got a really good submission, one of my, you know, moves. And I started to smell blood, so I kind of bailed on trying to get the points, and I started attacking submission, but I never secured the position to get the points. Yeah, so I was, you know, at that point I was in control the whole match, but I did not settle down to get the points, so we won by the points.
So at the Worlds, when you saw that guy was across from you, what did you feel like getting ready to get out there?
I was excited. I was like, man, because I know I can beat this guy.
Yeah,
I was like, and so I'm just not going to be stupid, and like I'm going to make sure that I play the game right.
Right.
Again, because it's what it comes down to. You know, like if that role had been a role in the gym, I would have felt fine. You know what I mean? But because of the point system, I was not playing the game properly. And so, you know, when I went into this tournament this time, I was like, all right, I'm playing the game today because that's what I'm doing. I'm going to make sure I get my points. I'm not going to give anything up. That's why I was very, like, I didn't attack the back as much as I could have because I was like, well, I'm up, you know, I'm up on advantage right now. I don't want to give him even a chance to come up on top of me. So,
well, it was my first big tournament. I kind of, you know, I just basically did regional stuff, and I lost in the first round. The guy ended up taking third. He was tough, and I guess we found out he competes a lot. But I guess the thing is, it is a game, and taking nothing away from my opponent, I think he was obviously very good. But we were I felt like I was in a good position. We got restarted by the ref, and instantly I don't think I fought for my grips or fought for what I needed to, and that's my own fault. That's just my own lack of awareness, so I can't take anything away. I mean, I got submitted. So,
well, I've done that before. Hell, I was against Tim Spriggs in Atlanta a couple years ago, and I remember we're like, you know, he's trying to do the cross collar shuck, and so I'm just reaching over, and so we're just dancing around doing this for like a minute, and the ref's like, "Combach," and then he's like about to give us penalty points, and then he sees a combach, and I looked at him, and I kind of gave him a nod, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for it," and then fucking because I took my focus off my opponent, whoop, like, yeah, he took me for a ride.
I watched, you know, me and Justin were talking about earlier about. He was talking about watching this video over and over, and I was watching my video just trying to break it down. And I was actually looking. I didn't look at myself. I looked at my opponent the whole time on the video, and he was watching the referee. Like, he anticipated, I think, any advantage you can get. Like we talked about, it's a game of inches. Any advantage you can get in that point system in that type of tournament. I mean, because I think he anticipated the referee to say, "Combach," and I think. A lot of times the referee kind of taps you to tell you to go. That's what we usually do in the gym. Anyways, sure. We tap each other. You ready? Let's go. And he just, man, I don't know. He got me. And
it sucks, and I don't know. Like, I think the jury for me is still out whether if that was a successful. For me, it wasn't a successful tournament.
I see. You can say it's not successful, but I think that typically, that's your first crack at a big tournament,
right?
And most people, there are exceptions, obviously, but most people really don't do well at their first big tournament. Like I know tons of people that like get so shaken up and it throws you off your game.
Yeah.
And, again, most people's success lies in the sort of the aftermath of their failures, right?
Right.
So I think that you may not be a success now, but if you go do another big tournament, you're going to be much better prepared. And if you win, it's going to be, to me, directly related to the fact that now you've tasted that, you've seen what it's like to be at a big tournament. And plus, man, you're at a tough level. Purple belt's no joke.
Sure.
You're basically at a level.
No easy matches.
No, because purple belt means that you have all the guys have like black belt positions. Right, they're not as well rounded off as a black belt, but there's some part of their game that's like black belt level where if they get you into that, it's bad news for you, no matter who you are, right? And so that's not an easy division to step up to the plate for especially that's the first time of ever being at that level of a tournament. So I think it to me, looking at it as a coaching perspective, I think that it's a success for you because now I know that Eugene is going to know exactly what to expect should he come into a big tournament because he's going to know just all the things that are going to happen. You're going to kind of know the feeling of it.
Right.
Like in high school wrestling, for instance, most of the time, everybody that got to state their first year, you almost, unless they were like phenoms, you almost knew that they were going to like underperform their first year at state.
Yeah.
Because it was just, you're there, the crowd's huge, there's just thousands of people in the stands, and there's multiple mats, and it's just not the same feel that you get at the little tournaments and meets, and it's just, it gives you rubber legs, and you're just not the same person.
I'll tell you, I was telling Justin, I was like squatting, and I was like before we got called out before our match, I was just kind of smiling. I was pumped. I felt so good. I felt like I put the time in. I warmed up properly. I felt good. I had some adrenaline, but I felt good. I felt really aware. I felt like I was focused. I don't think the moment got the best of me. I don't know. It sucked. It sucked for sure to lose, but I think where I value is the experience of it and just being out there and actually immersing myself, because we were there for 3 days, being out there and watching you guys go at it and feeling the emotions, letting that kind of wash over my body and let my body go through the emotions of feeling nervous and feeling anxious and, being able to control that or kind of go with it and let it kind of, not take over, or let it kind of be a part of, how I felt.
Well, and in the end, when it's all said and done, you wouldn't want to have looked back and wondered, well, what if?
Yeah.
Like, you went out there and did the damn thing, and that sometimes it's all you can do. And, again, Sean said something to me years ago, where at the Pans back in 2015, where, fucking cocksucker, the guy, he got up in points, and then I'm chasing him down the mat.
Right.
We had, 2 or 3 takedowns, but every time they were outside of the mat, and so the ref I get nothing for it. And then, at one point in the match, I threw my hands up, because I'm like, dude, come on, let's play the game.
He's running.
He's running outside of bounds. Now, but Sean said something that's kind of and it's true, again, it doesn't satisfy the ego.
Yeah.
But, half of the people that go there lose. So if you have 3,000 competitors, you got 1,500 guys that lose. That's it. That's not again, it doesn't satisfy the ego to be like, well, I'm one of those 1,500, but understand that, you're in a lot. There's lots of company there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just how it is sometimes.
Man, I think there's something to be said about we talked about this too, about just putting fucking yourself on the line, just going out there and doing it. We did put a lot of our eggs in one basket. We put a lot of time and effort and money and time away from our families and kind of sit there and you're almost like you're in Vegas, which for some people is amazing, but it's almost like you're just sitting in your hotel and you're just itching to get at it, and you're waiting and waiting. I don't know, man. It was tough. It was a good experience, tough experience. It was learning more than anything. And Justin, you had for me, I'll speak for you. I think you had a very successful tournament at the World. Although some things were kind of out of your control, you had a really good match. You said you were excited about going against the next guy not the first round. You actually, in most of the people's eyes, you won your first match, but the referee didn't think so because
due to a technicality is how I lost, the way I look at it. And well, to answer your question, I view it as a success. And I think back to what you're talking about, where most people that enter into a competition in any form of competition, especially in jiu-jitsu, you're about to go out there and do battle and try to choke someone or arm lock them or foot lock them, and they're going to try to do the same. So, it's nerve-wracking, and those nerves and just the anticipation, the anxiety, the fear, and the worry, it can almost become overwhelming. So I would say a high percentage of competitors, are all going through the same emotion, the same feeling, the same thought process. I think most people that are, and this is just my opinion, that distinguishes the difference between the people that are successful have just acclimated themselves to that. And the only way to do that, and I've heard it even from our coach, is just to go out there and compete more. Losing is just part of it. It's like the fear of losing. Everyone goes through that, and I think a lot of people make foolish mistakes due to fear. And for me, it was the complete opposite. I wasn't feeling fearful. I was kind of looking at this opponent as I just need to get through him, and however I can, however that's going to happen. And luckily for me, fortunately for me, all the training it paid off, and I was able to go out there and attack, and that's what Chewy says. Just keep moving forward, get your grips. Don't hesitate. Don't play it safe, because you never get anywhere you want to be just playing it safe. I think that's in anything really in life. But for me, I view it as a success because like he said earlier, I wouldn't want to be sitting back here thinking, what if? I would have never known what it would have been like to go out there and have a good time with you guys and see everybody and see the 3-day competition by not going. Like last year I didn't go, and I had those exact feelings. So, and I was able to step on the mat confident, still a little nervous, and able just to attack a footlock, which I'm not really even a footlock guy, but was able to go after an Estima lock and not be 100% aware of the rules. And I was, submitted my opponent in under 18 seconds and then immediately get disqualified. And, it was kind of shocking and disappointing at the same time. And it was hard for me to believe in the moment. But looking back, really, it's kind of funny. I view it as like, well, now I know.
Right.
And it's just unfortunate that it happened in such a large venue as the Master Worlds, which is, I consider, I say it's like the Breeders' Cup or the Kentucky Derby of Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
And, for me, it's just like, okay, well, now I know. And I know it really, in those situations in the rule books, it really is up to the competitors. When you step foot out on the mat, you're supposed to know what the rules are. And even though it's a little subjective, like I had even mentioned before, heck, the Estima lock is legal, but it's not legal if you do it like the Estima lock, which is the toe hold and an ankle lock. I know Chewy has said this before. It's essentially it's a toe hold just with an ankle lock position, twisting the foot.
So, for people that don't know, this Estima lock, Chewy, maybe you can break it down. Kind of, you're standing, you have their foot almost kind of across your belly. You figure four your hands, and you kind of hip your hips forward, and it's almost like I guess the mechanism is a toe hold, essentially, but the one that's legal in IBJJF rules is
something that it's never been done before,
which is like a straight ankle.
That's where I try to look up the I was researching because I was curious. I'm okay, because in the rules it says the Estima lock is legal, and then it has kind of the weird ambiguous verbiage, because it's like, because it literally says in the rule book, it's like, which it says if it attacks the toes, right, then it is not legal, but if it attacks the straight ankle, which almost never happens, in parentheses, like, well, and then I was like, well, this is silly. And then I went and looked it up on the internet, and I was looking at Victor Estima, since he's kind of the guy that, sort of patented the move, right? The Estima lock. I looked up like 6 or 7 different videos of him showing the move and the mechanics of the move, and not once did I ever see him show, like, okay, guys, this is a straight ankle lock. Almost in every one, he explicitly talks about the fact that you're torquing and attacking the toes or the leg, the foot, almost in a total manner. And so I don't understand, like, to me it's just dumb. It's like, you say no. The steamer lock is not legal because it's not shown to attack the straight ankle. You say straight ankle locks are legal, but the Estima, which is a toe hold basically, just don't make it legal. It's like, cause it's a weird thing. And this is not the first time this has happened. Because I did a little search afterwards, and like there was some guy on Reddit like, what the fuck, you know, like, and then like some guys posting up the verbiage, and again, it's just silly, man. There's just so many rules. Sometimes.
Do you think maybe like the people that make the rules, are they mainly Brazilian? Or okay, like, so do you? No, I'm saying right. It's not all Brazilian people that run. I mean, the majority of there were some people that were
pretty much is
okay.
You might have some refs or something like that, but the guys who actually like work everything out,
okay,
straight. I mean,
do you feel like there was maybe anything with a language barrier or a I mean, I feel like. People know what an Estima lock is. You know, probably 8 out of 10 jiu-jitsu players have some kind of knowledge of jiu-jitsu.
No, I think it's like this, man. The IBJJF does. They run a hell of a tournament, and they do a lot of things very, very well.
Okay.
Right? Like, I mean, like, just like, you know, getting up and knowing when you're going to compete.
Right.
That seems like such a small thing. But I remember being at big tournaments, right, back in the day, like Helson and all those guys used to run one called the Arnold Classic,
right.
the Arnold Fitness Expo. And I remember competing 5 hours after I was supposed to, and then, you know, which was like 8 o'clock, and then I remember doing my absolute division as a white belt at around 12 o'clock at night, you know, and then like getting there the next day, and then the venue doesn't open for 2 hours later than it was supposed to, and, you know, you get to see the unprofessionalism. I mean, just very professional. The only thing that where I think they get into trouble is some of the rules are very ambiguous, and there's a lot of inconsistency amongst them, and I think that's because they just simply have too many rules. Because it's like, you know, for instance, Javier, one of our black belts under the Sean Hammons Association, weird rule setting. So they went out of bounds during a takedown attempt. Paro, right? They stop it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Whenever a takedown thing is going, they bring it back and you start neutral again. That's just how it is. They brought it back and started him in the position, and then the competitor that he was going against, who was actually the eventual winner, Mafra, ends up like fishing his hand up the collar a little bit deeper, and then they're fighting, and Javi's getting penalties because he's trying to tell him. And then, and again, you know, a lot of people may not touch on it, but there is some favoritism that's shown amongst people because, again, if you have primarily groups of people that have trained together, sometimes it's just a weird spot. So it's like, but you have these weird rules where there's a lot of inconsistency. Chad back in the day had one where he had a guy sunk in a deep triangle, and the guy ran his ass out of bounds. That's supposed to be a DQ. You're not supposed to be able to do that. Yeah. And they brought him back in. Like, wait a second, that's not the way the rule works. Right, and so that's where it
started neutral. They brought him back in, but he wasn't.
Yeah. Right, he started neutral, right?
Like, wait a second, triangle position.
You started in triangle position, or it's supposed to be a DQ because you're not supposed to evade a submission like that. Yeah. And so for me, you know, again, that's where I get into issues with the IBJJF because I'm like, the rules sometimes state things, and you know, there's no talking to them, and you know, hell, even I went to a tournament and like stuff happened. There's no talking to them. It's just like it is what it is.
That's what
and it's really unfortunate sometimes because they do run such a good tournament, and because the tournaments are so prestigious, and you know, if you're going to run a tournament like that and you're going to charge the money that you do, the rules should be simple and they need to be like executed and they need to be consistent across the board, not where, you know, where like literally, you know, every IBJJF tournament that happens, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, there's even been situations where like Andre Gaval jumped the gate because the guy used an illegal move in the division that his student was going against, and he flipped out on the guy. He was like, wait a second, you know, like, you know, whatever. He got kicked out for that tournament that year because he basically was arguing with the ref.
So do you think the favoritism is do you think it's an American versus a Brazilian thing? Do you feel like it's maybe just people that train together?
People that train together, because I mean, like, there's a lot of it's not just favoritism. It's mainly just inconsistency of the rules. Okay. Because I mean, like I said, like, you know, for the most part, like, I mean, I've beaten guys that were training partners before. Like literally, they're out there like having a ball, talking to each other, and I put it on the guy, and he scores just right down the middle, just perfectly, right? But the problem is that there's a lot of inconsistency among the refs. Like, you can literally, there are some refs where you're like, oh, that guy's a bad ref, and you just know who you got. Like, you're like, shit, like, I got a bad ref. You know, and then, like I said, you know, where, you know, from mat to mat, sometimes things are just, they're not the same. And you're like, well, they're supposed to be. because again, the reffing's supposed to be very consistent. And I think sometimes it's where you get into stuff like this, where there's a lot of ambiguous rules and they're not clearly stated, or they're just. I don't like the Estima lock. I don't know why they say straight ankle. Like, you just say straight ankle lock, because the Estima lock is not a straight ankle lock.
No.
And just to clarify,
and it's not even a toe hold. I mean, if you break it down, technically, it's not a toe hold. A toe hold are completely illegal to grab it by the hand.
So, just to clarify, ankle locks are illegal at the purple belt and
No toes.
I'm sorry, toe holds are illegal between the purple belt and below.
Yeah.
And then brown belt and black belt,
They get their toes
They're-
and bars.
knee bars and toe holds. Okay. But
And
straight ankle locks are legal.
What?
And Estima locks.
And Estima lock.
No matter if it's turned, foot is turned or not.
So, a straight ankle is legal for white and blue, or they can't? Do you know?
You have to look at the rule book. You know,
This is
the rules
crazy,
change
man.
every year. There's always little add, like Chewy's saying. You know, it's more consistency. And you know, like this year they added, or maybe it was last year. You know, no double guard pull, and you see that a lot, especially at the lightweight divisions, and you know, or even big guys. You know, you'll see double guard pulls, and why they have that as a rule you can't do. I don't know. I'm not really big on guard pulling, but at the same time, you know, that's a new rule. So
Yeah.
you know, who knows what it'll be like for 2017.
Yeah. See, and I like some of the rules. Like, for instance, I saw the double guard pull rule go into effect in Atlanta, where you know, they did these two guys double guard pull, and they start the clock. And if nobody comes up, I think it's 20 seconds, they get penalties, right?
So are they kind of like, is it kind of like a 50-50
No.
almost?
Like,
or-
basically, because if you watch like a match where you get the two guys where they're both like literally sitting on their butts and they're like scooting around
Okay,
after each other,
gotcha.
and then like no one's coming up on top to pass, they'll just give them penalties.
I got it. Makes sense. Yes, they're both just not really engaging.
Right, no one's engaging, you know,
Okay.
because they're both sitting down, and so they'll give them the penalty after 20 seconds. I think it's 20 seconds, and which I like, because again, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of tournament you have, whether it's like, so you can go IBJJF rules, you can go, you know, like whatever other sorts of rules exist. You can go EBI rules. That's a tournament. There are rules. It's not like, you know, it's not open. Whatever, you can go Metamoris rules, right? And the competitors are going to adapt to those rules, and they're going to fight to those rules, and so therefore the rules have to be in place to promote the kind of thing that you want to see, right? So, for instance, you know, if you don't want to see people double guard pull, then you got to penalize it, right? And you have to reward certain actions. You know, that's why you reward things like guard passing and going after certain things, right? Because it's like, here's your reward for taking the action that we want to see. It's like in judo, for instance, right? Like in judo, they took away several years ago. They took away attacks to the legs, so you can't do double legs and things like that. Back in the day, you would have like these guys from like the Eastern European countries, and they'd go in there and they'd double leg people, and it was legal. And then they took that away because it was kind of getting away from what the judoka wanted to see. They wanted to see the big throw. They also took away double hand grip breaks. So, like if someone grabs your grip, you have to be able to break it off. Like, you cannot grab their hand.
Can't do both. Okay.
Can't take two hands and break. That's illegal because it's considered you're playing too defensive. So what that does is that means that you better grip fight hard, and if you lock up with someone, you better be ready to throw.
Okay. That makes sense.
And again, because they want to go for the throw, if you hit the ground and there's not a lot of action going on, boom, back up on the feet. And I think that you have to, just like wrestling does the same thing. Like, you can't like grip certain ways, and that's to make sure that nobody stalls, or at least you limit stalling. And you got to do the same thing with jiu-jitsu. The rules have to be in a situation so where you get rid of the stuff that you don't want to see, and you make sure you reward the stuff that you do want to see.
What do you think is like a perfect, like, if you have to do a tournament, what's your perfect rule set? I mean, submission only, time limits, no time limit. What do you think?
It doesn't exist yet. I mean, because I think that submission only is cool, but the problem with submission only is that guys play very passive. Because, so what happens is, like, let's say you have a 20-minute time limit. All right, 20 minutes. Like a Metamoris, submission only, 20 minutes. Well, people play to that 20 minutes. Like, they don't play for, like, hey, I'm trying to submit this guy. They say, well, I've got 20 minutes. So that's the way that they pace them. That's their tempo. And so they go very slow. Whereas, like, you say a guy has, like, you'll see, like, Abu Dhabi Pro, like, right, the 6-minute matches. 6 minutes, black belt's going. So they're wide open for 6 minutes going after it. And to me, man, you see a lot more submissions in those 6-minute matches because guys are fighting so hard for every inch because they know they cannot give up anything. And so they end up getting caught because they have to make themselves vulnerable in order to defend the position.
Now,
whereas you see see some of the, and even in the EBI is great depending on the person, but even on some of those matches, you see guys that'll basically pussyfoot around for a while, and they'll wait till the overtime,
right,
and then they come alive. But for the first 10 minutes, they don't really do much. You know, then in the Metamoris, it's terrible because every match ends up being a draw. There's no judges, so basically you can just not get submitted and you're fine, right?
The thing I like about EBI, though, is, I mean, there's an incentive, but we talked about this too. I mean, if you finish somebody in the regulation, you actually make money. If you don't get, like, say it's $5,000 a match, and you have 4 matches, you could win, or 5 matches, you could win $25,000.
But, you know, the problem is like with some of those guys, especially in the EBI, like, some of those guys make a lot of money off of their name.
Right.
And so what's most important to those guys is not winning that match, but preserving their reputation. So, you know, it's like, well, I'll make $5,000 today, but if I end up, you know, maybe running out of gas somewhere in that 10 minutes, then if I get submitted, then that guy's going to be able to make his name off of me, and then he'll be, you know, it's one of those unfortunate things about being at that level where those guys have so much to lose. You know what I mean? Where, like, if they make a mistake, it's there. And, again, like, you can just see it. Like, those guys, like, even Amanda Morris, they were throwing out money at him originally. They're like, here, we're going to give you money if you submit people. And then you watch the matches, and guys just, like, it's terrible. It's like, they're like, you know, they just give up every position. Nobody really fights for it. Nobody really goes for the submission. And if you're fighting against another black belt or a guy that's at the same level who's not exposing himself or herself, it's so hard to submit them. It really is. Like, you can take like an average black belt, put him up against a pretty good black belt, and just have the guy ball up.
Yeah, which makes a very boring match.
It does.
You know, when people don't engage, and you come there, especially if you're paying money, or even if you're not, and you're just a spectator and you love the sport. You know, you want to see a fight. You want to see people moving, and I think, you know, with that format of 6 minutes is ideal. And that's why you see that, for instance, at the Worlds, you'll see, you know, even at the consider the older guys, you know, Masters 30 and up, you see 6-minute matches, and for Masters 2 and up, it's 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to go out there and do what you came to do, not 10 minutes, not 20 minutes, because you know it's easy to be complacent in positions and become lazy, and you know, get a position and just stall. Right. And not really engage. So, but when you have a time limit like 5 or 6 minutes, I would have to 100% agree.
Well, I think that you know, with a shorter time limit. First off, like, the thing of Olympic wrestling, it's like 6 minutes. Yeah, that's like, they don't. I mean, those guys are the top-notch athletes, and they're still going a short time. But whereas jiu-jitsu, it's like we think we need a longer time. But, you know, like what Justin's saying, like, you got the shorter time limit, and to go along with that, with having such a short time limit, you know, you can go full speed. There's no doubt about it. We all, I mean, every one of us in this room could go 6 minutes fucking full bore. Right? Like, so there's no question of, like, am I going to get tired halfway through this? You know, Chael Sonnen talked about this over in, like, the Joe Rogan podcast in his first episode. He was talking about, you know, if you've got, like, a championship fight, you can go about it 2 ways. You can either be the guy that's going to try to win the decision by chipping away and being conservative, or you can be the guy that is going to try to get the finish, but runs the risk of ending up later on in the fight running out of gas. Yeah. Because if you really go for the finish, you know what I mean? You run the risk of being later in the fight and just not having the win. And you watch a lot of guys that really go for the finish every time, and you watch them. If it gets out of, like, a certain, like, typically like a first or second round, their chances of winning, they plummet. Right. Whereas you get those guys that basically just peck away at someone, and they tend to win fights, but it just, like I said, it's not as exciting. It doesn't really conjure up that emotion. Or, like, well, you get the W, but like, I remember that guy more because he just goes for the kill. You know?
Oh, it makes sense. Was there anybody that, Chewy or Justin, anybody that impressed you guys at the Worlds that you saw? I mean, anybody that you all watched, either your division or black belt division, that you thought was just...
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, I'll just start off with the black belt division. I mean, there's so many to list, and watching, you know, guys that are, you know, like in your division, even Chewy, Rafael Lovato Jr. I mean, he was just an animal. He was just handling people, and he's, you know, he's a big dude. Not only 6'4", of course, everyone's big to me. I'm 5 nothing, but you know, watching him and just the level of skill that was displayed, and you're talking guys that have been black belts for, you know, a long time, and it's just amazing. You know, I have to definitely give props to Renato Tavares winning the Worlds, and it's always fun watching him. For me personally, I like watching him because he's a little dude, and you know,
he goes for the kill too.
And he's 40, I think 6 now, maybe 45, 46, somewhere in there, mid 40s, and you know, he was amazing to watch because he does go for the kill. He just goes out there and really he doesn't hold back, and I was able to watch him, submit 2 out of the 3 opponents that he had. Guys like him, and even Salo. I mean, what a display of freaking heart and just fortitude to just grind through the pain. And I mean, that guy's been training probably as long as I've been alive. So, to watch him win and then walk off the mat and just kind of fall apart, but you would never see that when he's in the fight. And I love that saying that the Navy SEALs have, you're never out of the fight, and to me that was what he displayed. And the list goes on, but those 3 right now stand out just because of the the different levels, and the big, you have a guy that's in the super heavy in your division, Chewy, and then you have a guy that's, I believe, 2 levels below as far as weight class. I'm going to say maybe he's heavy. Salo
went heavy this year. Yeah.
Oh, he's heavy. So that was the next weight class below.
Right one below. Yeah.
And then you have light feather with Hanato, and so those 3, man, just, it was really, it's cool to watch and see, and just hopefully one day get close to that level. I don't know if it's attainable because of the amount of hours that they've put in their lives, but just know that that's the skill set that's out there, and at the age that they're at, and still just killing it.
That's the thing that makes jiu-jitsu so unique, is that you can be your quote unquote regular black belt, not big time, and you can be on the same mats and maybe a match away from, or even go against a Lovato Jr. or a Sala Ribeiro, or I mean, it's just crazy to me. Like, this is one of the few sports where it's like, you have your everyday person that can actually go against some of the greats. And for me, I was a little bit starstruck. I mean, seeing Cyborg walking around and seeing Andre Galvao and Robert Drysdale, I was like, oh my god, man. And even seeing Kurt Osiander was, for me, just because you see his videos and stuff, and he's just, his wife is right next to me like, fuck him up, Kurt. She was going nuts.
All the icons.
It was just cool. And the funny thing is, the guy that he went against, I don't know if he did or some other guy went against, I think it was a Brazilian black belt, and he was
the cane?
With the cane.
It wasn't
walking around, gimping around with the cane, barely
sucking on an inhaler.
Walks out, gets on the mat, all tied it up to his freaking head, walks out, and he's just like freaking nothing.
Mean as nails.
You never think he needs a cane or an inhaler.
Nothing, man. But then as soon as he walks off the mat, Kane and Kurt Osiander, as soon as he walked off the mat, he doubles over, like hunched over, has his hand in this cold ice machine. I was like, man, but this is an amazing sport where you can be your body can be kind of broken down, and you can be in your 40s or 50s, and you can still be highly competitive. And I think that's just that's crazy, because I think that's where skill comes in. That's where jiu-jitsu, I think, shines, because you can be really technical and very skillful, and still be, hanging with people that are younger or, stronger, more athletic. I think that's something that, to me, that appeals to me as far as jiu-jitsu goes, because I feel like you can continue to improve and be better even as you get older, because I think you just evolve different parts of your game.
Yeah, I would have to agree 100%. And one thing I wanted to mention too is, of course, we're always enthralled and intrigued by the level of the black belts, and one thing I didn't want to discount was that there was a lot of impressive matches out there.
Absolutely.
At purple, and I definitely want to say even at brown, and one person in particular that comes to mind is a little guy out in Arizona, Paul Anderstout. He's just impressive to watch.
Beast.
He's a little bulldog, and I mean, he won the silver medal this year he lost due to a ref's decision, which in my eyes he won. The dude is just, from start to finish, I mean, as soon as that ref says fight, he says combate, I mean, he shoots for the takedown, and usually 10 times out of 10 he gets it. And it was just impressive to watch someone like him, because I've watched him. I've actually competed alongside him from the time we were blue belts, and now here he is as a high level, silver medalist world competitor at the brown belt level, and probably, I would assume, pretty close to getting his black belt. I would say here not for too long. But, just to witness that, and witness him in a really bad situation. One of the matches, the guy had a triangle on him, and he just, was doing everything properly to defend the triangle, and he was able to get out and then continue to fight, and he didn't get submitted. And at the brown belt level and even some purple belt level matches, there were some seriously impressive guys to watch. Another guy I know is over in Illinois named Chad Hawkins, hasn't been a purple belt for very long, and he won the Worlds, and he submitted every opponent but one. So yeah, back to the skill level is just through the roof, and I don't care what people say. 30 and up, the old guys. I mean, you can't underestimate the old guys.
Did you see Lovato's post? About like comparing the two?
Oh yes, I did. The video,
Yeah, did you see it?
On Facebook, if you haven't seen that video.
So I couldn't help but think like, hey man, I did that video before. But he shows like he makes fun of like the two going. So like him and the guy, like they slap hands and then they both like get in, like they butt scoot and they get into a 50-50. They rock it back a little bit forward.
Like under masters.
Yeah, under masters, like the adult division. And then he gets up and like raises a hand, screaming. And if you watch like the finals of the absolute match with Urbith and Buchecha for a little bit. I mean, there's one point where Buchecha's got his elbow on the mat doing this, kind of like, this fucking sucks, we're stuck in this position. And then, but then he gets back up, and then it's like, okay, masters, old guys, they get up, they hug, they slap hands, they hug again, and they go at it, and they basically, it goes to, like, take down, like, pass the guard, get on top of the mount, put the choke in, whatever. And, and honestly, man, I was thinking that when I was there, I was like, damn, this is, like, all the matches, like, when I go to, like, some of these big tournaments, I'll be, like, excited, because that's where that video that I posted where we're like, me and Adam were scooting around, because I saw these two big names going after each other. I was like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to watch this. And I'm sitting down to watch it, and then you see those guys, they butt scooting. This fucking sucks, And then I looked across, and there's some big heavyweight guys that were like in like a Masters black belt heavyweight division. I was like, they were going after it. I'm gonna watch these dudes. But like watching at the Master Worlds, like, I didn't see anyone do that. Like, everybody was firing off, going after each other. It's like whether they were pulling guard and going for the sweep and submission, or they were like fighting hard for the takedown. Like, to me, it was like just, I've heard people say this, but jiu-jitsu is a language. Kind of, like you, it's almost like you're learning. You start with letters, and then you eventually put together words, and then eventually you're starting to make sentences. And then you can write whatever,
Right.
But so jiu-jitsu is a language. We use that analogy. Watching the adults compete sometimes, especially like the guys that just flip upside down and like they do this like weird stuff that like where like they'll win on an advantage or something. To me, it's like it's like a dialect that that sounds a little bit like gibberish. Like you understand it well enough, but you're kind of like, can you say that again? Whereas like watching the old guys go, where they're old guys in air quotes, like fucking 30 and they're prime and going. Everybody's using like really straightforward like classical jiu-jitsu where it's like, I understand exactly what you're doing. This looks good to me. It's very appealing to my eyes because it's like, to me, it's like, this is fighting jiu-jitsu. This is, I take the guy down, I frickin' pass his guard, get on top of him, submit the dude. Or I pull him into my guard, I get control, I sweep him or submit him. If I sweep him, I get on top of him, I submit him. Like,
jiu-jitsu.
It was just, to me, it's just like, because classical jiu-jitsu, because back in the day when I first got into jiu-jitsu, even if you didn't get into it for a fighting situation, you understood that at any point how the positions adapt to a fight, right? Like, you're in mount, okay, well, now you understand how you can gift wrap this guy, you can, like, choke him out or punch him in the face, whatever.
Right.
Or you understand that in guard, you have to close distance and make sure that they can't get away to punch. Whereas, like, you get these fringe positions for competition where guys are upside down, inverted, and stuff like that. And it's like, man, if, like, you do that in a fight, you might get hurt.
Yeah.
Like...
You'll get an elbow to the head if you do that.
Elbow, a punch, some guy slams you in your face, because you don't have good control of his body. Like, I don't know, to me, it was just like, it was fun to watch those old guys compete like that. And I say old guys, again, it's 30 years old, man. Like 30 to 32 sometimes is your prime, right? Like, in those like early 30s. Some of these guys are just animals, and they're like Lovato. I mean, he's not old by any means. And he, but watching that kind of jiu-jitsu was much more appealing to me.
What have you seen as like the evolution of jiu-jitsu? Like, what do you, like, technique wise? Like, what have you seen since you started to now? Like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different positions, berimbolo and all this different stuff. But where do you like see it now from where it was, and where do you see it going? Like,
see, those positions were always around. Like, there was guys that like Holeta. He used to do the Holeta sweep was where he would invert. He did that a long time ago.
Okay.
There were guys like Samuel Braga back in the day would use like what we call berimbolo, kind of play around.
I remember seeing it back in hook and shoot days. Like,
it's inverted.
It's always been around. Like,
it's not as popular.
Well, and to me, like, the big change, right, is just sort of the way that these moves expand on each other. Because now with like YouTube and video and like easy, like transferable. Sure.
I want some beer. What's on this?
Beer me.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
But
Take a little.
especially with like the easy transference of information now, you know, because back in the day, man, like you didn't have it. Like I remember watching like old VHSs trying to piece together moves. Now it's like you can get on YouTube, man, and everything's there, you know, or you can get on like if you want to buy someone's like series. Right, you can get online and get it digital and get instant access right now. Like if I want to go watch Bernardo Faria's DVD series, I can go and buy it right now in digital and watch it right now.
Yep.
And so the sort of the growth of the moves has reached like sort of an exponential pace, because now like the moves, they adapt and they change so much because everybody's learning so much quicker. So whereas like back in the day, everybody learned much slower because the information just wasn't there.
Right.
Now
That
the information's everywhere, and now everybody's just learning so much quicker. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about how much stuff. Again, we all laugh at it, like, "Oh, you learned this on YouTube." But dude, no shit. I had a guy come up to me the last day of the tournament who watched one of my videos and showed me his match of him using the move that I showed in my video.
awesome.
He was like, "I used the move that you showed on the video," and I guarantee you guys have at some point learned some move that you learned off the internet.
Absolutely.
That you put it to use, right? Like that's so fucking cool because that information's being shared around, and so everybody gets better faster because there's just so much that you can take in. You know, whereas it just wasn't back in the day. The only moves you got were from your instructor. And if you want to go back in the day, like Sean used to teach down in Nashville, they were part of the Hicks and Gracie Association way back in the day. Like, and this is like 97 or 98.
Wow.
You know where they would get their techniques? They got them faxed to them.
So no, I was gonna say
amazing.
VHS tapes.
Like they had a fax machine. Like
They did Morse code.
like yeah, like with like the little things, like the little like where you got to rip off the sides or whatever. They had their moves faxed to them, and they would have descriptions of what they're supposed
That's
to do.
awesome.
Good luck with that shit.
Wow.
You know, like I mean, so you think about that now. Now you can like video everywhere. Like you can actually see what they're doing real time. You know, so
And I mean, now you can
insane.
get people to come and do seminars anywhere. I mean, just it's awesome.
Well, sure.
The information is so there. I mean, yeah, like I watch YouTube all the time. When I get bored, I'll just like. Honestly, I was. We got some like DVDs from in our little gift bag or whatever, and I was watching that yesterday. I was watching Marcelo Garcia, and everything was so basic, but I was like, man, this is just awesome. Like all the matches, all the stuff is just at your hands. You can see what they do and how they do it.
But see that word that you just used, basic. You know, that's the beauty of it because, like, okay, no matter, and this is how jiu-jitsu works, right? I've been long enough around here. The moves, like it's like they bounce around, right? Like, this year it was half guard. This year it was, you know, this. This year it was this. Like these positions, they kind of bounce around, and you'll see them pop up again, right? Like right now, leg locks are kind of like we're a boon for a little bit, you know, because everybody gets familiar with, and then people will adapt to them, and then it's going to change around to something else. You know, go watch like a guy like Lovato, right? He went in there in our division and basically just like the match that he had with the guy that I lost to. He did a blast double leg, forced half guard, didn't work, did a cut through pass, went to mount, choke. I mean, dude, like that's stuff that you learn as a white belt,
right?
But he's so good at it, right? And what's the term? Advanced basics, where you do the basics so well, you're so in tune with them, you're so good at them that they become, in air quotes, advanced. Like a Hodger Gracie, like cross collar choke, right? Like damn cross collar choke from out, but I'll choke out like every black belt in the fucking world with that damn thing.
Well, if you get the right position, the right grips, you can choke anybody out.
Well, absolutely. But again, most people, especially like the new guys that come into the sport, they're always looking for that weapon that someone doesn't have. Right, they're like, I'm trying to like get this new thing, this one up on my
secret weapon.
Yeah, the secret weapon, right?
Not there.
Well, and it can be there, because obviously, like when some guys pop out with some stuff that hasn't been used in a while, it kind of throws people off for a loop. But you also look at the other side that like it's not necessary, that like you don't have to be relying upon like a fringe technique. It can be like, look, man, you can do the basics so well that nobody can stop that stuff, and even if they know you're going to do it, you can just ram it down their throat.
I feel like that's what you see a lot of black belt, though. That's what you see
most of the time.
I mean, like, because it's a game of inches, game of little bit here. It's just whoever gets that little grip or that little advantage, they're able to kind of exploit that. And I mean, I don't know. And also, the other thing is stringing moves together, stringing techniques together, getting somebody to bite on something. Or I feel like I was thinking about this earlier today, and it was kind of like comparing jiu-jitsu to boxing. So like feints, like doing a feint in boxing is like trying to, doing like a movement to get somebody to get a reaction that you want. Or, like a combinations boxing, similar to throwing up one submission versus another.
Sure.
And I think that's really what it is, and I think the key is in the progression and in the just kind of building off of one reaction versus another, or one I think it's so cool. Jiu-Jitsu is so interesting to me that there's so many possibilities, and anybody can do it. If you're missing a leg, for God's sakes, missing an arm, if you're in a wheelchair, anybody can do it. It's so cool.
He got a takedown this morning.
Oh,
Lee.
Yeah,
he got.
Did he really?
Yeah.
So
he was going with a guy who he's been trained for several weeks, and guy shot a takedown in him. He got under over and duke.
So Lee's a guy that trains with us. He's a white belt. He's been training actually for a while. Yeah. One of Chewy's buddies from way back when. He was born with a certain, I guess, I don't know, maybe like...
he was born
so basically he's missing half of his leg.
He is a rotational plasty amputee.
Okay. I hope he's okay. Lee, Jesse, whatever. I call him Jesse.
Yeah, it's fine.
I hope it's fine. You're going to be popular. You're going to be famous. You're going to get all the girls after this.
Well, everybody likes the videos that he's in.
With Rob.
Did you see the picture of Rob?
Yeah, leg lock.
The Foot Locker Friday trophy.
Mm-hmm. The trophy is his prosthesis, funny. Which is awesome. No, but it's so crazy to me that some guy like that's probably never done anything athletic, really, or has never really, belong to any kind of sport, traditional sport. He could still do things, and he can be effective. He can actually be effective. Now he's got some disadvantages, I'm sure, but he can be effective. He can, you're a regular person. His jiu-jitsu is going to be better than somebody who doesn't know jiu-jitsu.
I don't know why this popped in my head. I have to tell you a funny thing. So my very first Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament I did was the Nashville Open in 2003, July of 2003. And I remember when I walked in that morning, to go to the scales, I remember they had a bunch of videos playing, and one of the very first videos, as soon as I walked in, I remember this stuck out to me. There was a black belt rolling at the Mundials, and he had one arm. He's inside the guy's guard. He's got this gi that's been tapered up a little bit, so he's got this nub of an arm, right? So basically the guy's got an elbow. His arm goes on his elbow. The other hand's here, and you can see posturing, trying to break this guard. He's doing weird stuff. He didn't win the match. He fucking beat another black belt with with an arm and a half. And so that's neat. And that's the beautiful part of it, is that jiu-jitsu will find, it doesn't matter what size, weight, strength, skill, whatever, or strength or anything like that. No matter what you have, your attribute-wise, it will adapt to you. If you give it time,
right,
it will adapt. Your body will adapt to it, and it will figure out a way to make it work. That's why you have guys like Justin, who's not a very tall guy, who obviously is going to favor half guard.
Right.
You get longer-legged guys like Chad, who obviously can play a wicked guard.
Right.
You have guys that play better passing positions because, or for instance, I have short arms, short sort of stocky arms. So Kimuras are great for me.
Yeah.
And straight arm locks, stuff like that. So it's really neat to see how jiu-jitsu sort of will adapt to people.
Right. I think we talked about kind of certain postures or certain builds, adapt to certain body types adapt to certain technique. Like guys that are longer limbed or lankier guys favor, the bottom game, or they favor, guard or triangles. And then, Justin, you're a smaller guy, and so you favor probably a top game. But you have a great bottom game too. You play a lot. Do you play a lot of half? What do you like to?
Yeah, one of the things for me is being short and short-legged is, getting a guy such as Chewy or even bigger into a full guard is very challenging.
Right.
So,
can't close the
the next best thing would be half guard. And
he's saying he's got small legs, Chewy.
I've learned that, I'm not saying you're fat, dude. But, in actuality, there are times that, can be very effective with a full guard. But if I'm going to go up against a larger opponent, I'm not going to force a full guard situation just because... I feel like I can do it. I'm going to just go the least path of resistance, and it's going to be half guard. Yeah, so, I feel like half guard is definitely something that for smaller guys, I would say even someone who's under 150 pounds and under,
right,
is it could really be, very effective from the bottom, and then come up, to the top. And when I one of the things coming here actually to Derby City is my top game really improved just by putting pressure and being for a small guy trying to just stay heavy and utilizing the weight and my hip placement, and just trying to get better at staying on top, especially a bigger guy like say someone who's 200 pounds, someone who's 135, 140 pounds to hold someone down that knows jiu-jitsu is one thing, and that if you can do that on the street, someone else that has no clue in jiu-jitsu.
But you're not a typical 140 pounder. You're like freaking strong as shit.
Oh, well, that's
I love rolling with Justin because I get to play big man game with him. But I hate rolling with Justin because once he gets some grips, it's just so hard to break. But no, Justin, you're not a typical freaking 140. You're not built like you're built like a little tank.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously. Yeah.
You like that? Yeah, I do, man.
Yeah, see
You're
that?
Stroking my ego, buddy.
Stroking.
Stroking it.
Chewy, actually, I want to ask you, yesterday, you promoted your first black belt.
I did.
Tell me, I was really... Rich is a guy that I started out training with. Integral part of the gym, for sure. Somebody that's... I emulate a lot because I think we're built similar, and I try to play that. He's super aggressive. I try to play my game kind of like his. Well, tell me, I guess you kind of got Rich as a blue belt.
Blue belt, yeah.
Yeah, he came over. He was a blue belt. What did you think? How did that feel for you to promote your first black belt? I mean, really, is your first one.
It was cool, man. He was my very first purple belt, really, that promoted, because he came over to the gym around 2010. And I took over as a head coach in 2009, but I was kind of on my own by 2010, and we gave Rich his purple in early 2012, and so it was like and I remember that kind of like I when I gave him his brown belt a couple years ago, I remember thinking about, man, like the way I think about it is, once I give you your brown belt, like the timer starts ticking, and that's what I say. It's like the clock starts. It's like you're almost at the end, right? You can see the finish line at this point, and like, that the end of that initial journey, it comes to a close, and so it was insane. Like I said, it was one of those moments where, like, it was incredible. Like I said, as a coaching thing, that's one of the things that, like, maybe people don't think about with their coaches, like the amount of time that they might. Not all coaches are like this, but a good coach, the amount of time they put into these people, and then to see that happen, and to see, like, obviously they see them get that to that skill level. That's like the fruits of their labor. It's like, man, I've helped this guy get to this point, right? Like that's the reward. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you chip away, and you constantly, just like for your own training, you progress. You see these people progress in front of you, and you see, like, like I remember Rich winning, brown belt tournaments as a purple belt, that kind of thing, and seeing him being able to do that, knowing that you had a role to play in that's huge. And then seeing him, be as into it as he has been, and knowing they had an impact on that, and being able to get him to that point, it's incredible.
What do you think was, like, did you have a time where it kind of switched? You had that flip switch where you're like, he, in my mind, is a brown or is a black belt, or I feel like he's deserving of his black belt. What was that for you? Like, what did you feel like was, and that goes for any belt, like a blue belt, a purple, a brown. Like, what was that for you to see? Like, man, I see Rich. He's got a brown belt right now, but I see him as a black belt.
Well, as you guys know, I keep most of you guys, I keep you at belt levels for a while, and the reason is because I've been on the other end of the spectrum where you kind of get promoted too fast, and the whole time you're second guessing yourself the whole time. It's not good. Like, I like to make sure that when you guys roll into the next belt, you roll, you hit the ground running,
right,
and at no point do you second guess yourself. You're prepared. And for Rich, man, honestly, like, the guy's been able to me, white to blue is a big jump, blue to purple belt's just a fucking crazy jump because of the fact that there's just such depth there. Brown belt to black belt to me is a little bit less of a jump. To me, it's a black belt you have to be able to teach, so it's kind of polishing and make sure you can teach. You're polishing up your own game, because as a purple belt you kind of lay down the foundation of your prototype, and brown belt is kind of refinement, and black belt is kind of the jokingly, but it's true, you restart. Because your mindset changes. But so, as I've considered him, as a black belt equal for a while, just like I have a couple other guys in the gym where I think they're there. Just for whatever reason, there's different reasons. Like, some of those guys have things they have to accomplish before I'm going to give it to them, just because the way that we discussed this. But
sure,
I talked to a couple of brown belts, and one of the things that require now from my brown belts to get to black is I want them to do it's a seminar for the gym of their style, so they can show basically one. Like they can show their game that they've crafted over these years and display it with their knowledge and their ability to teach it and give it to everybody else around them. And it's kind of just like one of the little small things. So Rich and I had talked about it. We had everything planned, and then unfortunately he got this thing popped up where he had to leave, and so we couldn't go through with that. But that was already on the books, so we were going to get that done, and then we were going to promote him. So. But as far as the switch flip, I don't know. It's just you may you look at the guy. He's competing. He rolls with black belts just fine. His knowledge is fantastic. If he doesn't know something, he'll take it and break it down. And he's a super bright dude. Sure. He's like a freaking lawyer, PhD, whatever. So he can break something down and then very, very intelligently, and then dissect it and then make it work, and then bring it into his game. So to me that to me is a great sign as far as if you're going to be a teacher. You may not know everything all the time, but you can take it and break it down, and then
kind of figure it out almost. Yeah, teaching is definitely a skill too. Being able to do something and then be able to break it down and show somebody else. I think the true understanding of a skill is being able to teach somebody how to do it. I mean, and that's definitely it's a little nerve-wracking, a little bit of everything. It's I don't know. I mean, Justin, have you taught any? You've done some teaching.
Yeah, I've taught a few classes.
Guys. Justin's a good teacher.
I've been fortunate.
What makes Justin a good teacher?
Because Justin, what Justin's shown before, I've watched him. He is one of those. Justin has a natural knack for understanding stuff. So Justin's another guy that can just break something down.
Yeah.
He can look at it, kind of tinker around with it in his head and break it down for himself. And so because of that, he has the ability to break it down. Because I've watched him show a technique before, and he's not searching for we're gonna do this everything. When he's teaching, his words and his movements are very meaningful, and they have purpose, so that when people are watching, it's very clear that he knows exactly what he's showing,
right?
So
I feel like the reason why you are probably good at teaching is because you're a smaller guy and you can't always overpower people. Mm-hmm. You have to really be technical. What? Chewy's rolling his eyes. No, well, Chewy, that does not mean that you're not technical at all. I'm just saying.
Hate on the big guys, huh?
No, not at all. Not at all.
There's something to be said.
It's a different type of game you have to play. Like, Chewy, you're a big guy, but you don't always play a big man game. That's different. You play you can freaking go fast and you can move. Yeah, you can move. It's not saying. It's just you have, I think, a variety of games you can play. You can play different styles. And I think Justin is a smaller guy, so he can't always overpower. No, I understand, but I see what you're saying, and I respect that. But I think the reason why just because he's probably studies jiu-jitsu and practices jiu-jitsu, but I think when you don't have some physical attributes, you have to, whether you're smaller or you're older or whatever, you have to find certain niches or certain places you're good at, and you have to be more technical because you can't overpower people.
Yeah, and that's what exactly. I'd have to agree with you 100%. One of my favorite guys to watch is a guy just like that. He's a small, light guy, and Kyotera. I mean, he's I think 10-time world champion now, and I mean there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, he's a little dude, and a lot of his matches, he's won against in absolute divisions against big dudes and just being very technical. I don't know enough about all of the matches that he's won to say whether he won on a submission or a advantage point.
Sure.
But the point is that yes, I mean to be technical and to be strong and to be big. I mean you have those three things working for you. But if you're just a little dude like me, I mean the only thing you have is to really work your technique, and at the end of the day, if that's what's beating the bigger, stronger guys, it just all goes back to your technical jiu-jitsu, and a lot of that has to do with where and how you train and who's showing you, who's telling you what to do. So man. I mean, I've seen big guys that are really technical,
right.
And their technique is beating a guy that looks just. I mean, even this weekend, I can't remember what match it was, but there's some big dudes rolling around there, and I mean, it was just a simple little half guard sweep that that was the determining factor between the gold and the silver medal. this last weekend. So, definitely technique, as they say, conquers all.
Chewy, and I think one of the things that makes you so hard to roll with, look at him, he's just glowing over here. No, one of the things that makes you so hard to roll with is your speed and your explosiveness. Because when you because you can play that heavy pressure game, that's expected. But when you play like an explosive, quick, game where you change positions, change directions very, consistently, and you also can grind people down, like with your speed, not just your weight or your strength, just your speed. And I think that's the thing is you can win on both ways. I think that's advantageous because when you go against a guy that's your size but can't move like you can definitely, you can get the better of him. So it's not. I just we go back. Certain people can play a certain game. People are built to play a certain game a certain way. That's just the way it is. Styles make fights or whatever, builds make jiu-jitsu players.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all, but jiu-jitsu does fit all, which is...
Well, yeah, and like Chris is a brown belt, call him Big Cat, and he's a bigger guy, older guy, but man, is he explosive, and when he gets ready to go, hops over shit. I mean, he's just so explosive, and that's what makes him so hard. Because you can kind of defend to an extent the strength, like the strength versus strength. You can kind of anticipate that.
That's why I call him the Jungle Cat.
Is that
Jungle Cat? Because it's
I call him Big Cat. Or
I call him Jungle Cat. Yeah. Oh, okay. Because you see those big giant cats and they're like 800 pounds or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then they can just they're so quick and agile.
Chris
and that's the guy's he'll be anywhere between, depending on whether or not he's out of shape or not. He'll be anywhere from 220 to 240.
Right.
And man, it's he'll kind of just hang around, talking about get the tiger just sitting around doing nothing. But then if it has to move, it'll move.
Right.
It's the same thing with him. Sometimes I remember preparing for Atlanta a couple years ago, and he was training really consistent with us and shooting in, and then one time he leapt over my freaking head.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you're not supposed to be able to do that. You're too big.
Yeah.
He's a big old cat.
That's so awesome. I mean, yeah. That's just a testament to jiu-jitsu, man. That people of different skill levels or athletic builds or just anything. I mean, they can really do. You can create your own pathway. I mean, I don't know. It's a skill or a technique or anything where a little guy can beat a bigger, stronger guy, and that's still the essence of jiu-jitsu. It's technique really and leverage.
Unless that big guy puts that big smash on him.
Yeah, well, you take a big guy that knows jiu-jitsu and then
put that big smash on him.
But still,
it's your jiu-jitsu versus their jiu-jitsu,
exactly.
Man. Whose jiu-jitsu's better?
Yeah.
You may have a big guy from another gym that can't hang with you or
true,
or whoever, you know what I mean? They may be a higher belt than you, but they may not train like we train.
Yeah,
They may not go hard like we do.
Yeah. Run into that a little bit,
you
going to other gyms, and I've noticed that. That's one thing I like doing is going and traveling around and not just to see, if they're better or if they're worse than us, or if I can whip someone who's bigger or, an upper belt. But at the same time, just to kind of see, and every time I leave and I come back, I feel confident knowing that where we train is unlike any other place.
We train hard. I mean, there's levels of jiu-jitsu, and I think Chewy, correct me if I'm wrong, but the West Coast, I think jiu-jitsu's been around there a lot longer, so it's maybe more, advanced or developed or what?
It's different.
What do you think makes it? What's different about it? What do you think is different?
Wrestle out here.
So you think a bunch of country boys out here?
No, I mean, dead serious, dude. You go to East Coast. East Coast has a different style.
Okay.
I mean, it just does. You know what I mean? And East Coast Jiu-Jitsu is a lot more wrestling, a lot more
like Top Game.
Yeah, well, a lot more just grindy, gritty nastiness. Whereas you see a lot of the West Coast grapplers, a lot of those guys. I mean, it's nothing bad. It's just a different style. Not as many of those guys wrestled, and so you see a lot more
laid back,
a lot more fluid guard work. You know what I mean? So it's whereas you see guys come from the East Coast, they're all a bunch of wrestlers with mangled noses and ears and faces, and they drive in with their heads and stuff.
Sure,
it's just how it is. Just like I said, it's not I wasn't the first person. I remember my buddy from the West Coast came out. He's a brown belt now, but he was talking about that. He was just the just the way that he's like, he came out here and trained back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's just telling how hard-nosed everyone is. He's just like, everybody's, from your blue belts all the way up, like every guy's like coming at you.
Yeah.
He's like, and everybody wrestles. And even guys like, you got guys like Dustin, like Dustin Mattingly, who never wrestled a day in his life. But if you watch him shoot a double, you'd never know because he actually got his wrestling here, And
he's gotten so much better, man. He's gotten so much better in a short amount of time.
He's good.
I remember we used to roll him I would just ragdoll him. He's tough, man.
He's a greedy little fuck.
Yeah, I remember watching one of his MMA fights, and man, I think he ended up losing, but man, he was just, they had like the fight of the night.
Yeah,
he was just tough, man. He's a tough dude. And that's where heart comes in too. I mean, I don't know. Chewy, don't fall asleep on me.
No, it's just
God, I feel this beer is kicking in.
Yeah. It's good beer. It's tasty beer.
It is.
I haven't drank beer
Yeah, I haven't drank beer in like 2 months because I was getting ready for that damn tournament that I lasted 2 minutes in. The one thing I can say is I lasted longer than Justin. But I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, man.
I know, man. I was only 16, 18 seconds in. And
The one thing I love
just go in for the kill.
about your match was that you absolutely went in there and imposed your will. You did. And that's why I told you afterwards, like, Justin, you have nothing to worry about because you went in there and you had a game plan and you executed that game plan to a freaking T. You did everything you wanted. You got the takedown, got the submission in 16 seconds. Even though you lost based on the judges, whatever, or the referees.
Technicality, yeah.
Fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, everybody knows, everybody there that didn't know you saw that match and they saw who won.
Yeah. I was surprised at how much attention it got.
And it was absolutely, it's absurd. Because you tried to do everything right. You didn't do anything you didn't cheat. You didn't do anything wrong in your eyes. And looking at every single person out there watching your match and the responses after your match was like, that's just not right. Yeah. So, and that's something I feel like I wish that my match went like that.
Yeah.
I do. I really do.
Yeah, it was a first. It was a first.
But you handled it well, and I think man, you never seemed. I mean, maybe you were disappointed and upset about it because I think you were disappointed that the result. I think you wanted to see the next guy.
Oh, absolutely.
You wanted to prove yourself against the next guy, and I think that's just commendable. And I think when the time is right, you will meet whoever you need to meet, and you will take care of business. So I don't know. I don't know. Like this tournament, this Masters was such an amazing experience for me because I've never done anything like it. I've never traveled out to a tournament, but like it's pumped me up, and it's almost like. It's knocked so much of the fear off of me. Like, I'm not scared, like, to go against whoever. Like, I mean, I'm just going to go play my game. And the thing is I didn't get to play my game at that tournament because it ended so quickly for me. But, like, I'm excited, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to play my game in practice. I'm going to do my thing in practice, and hopefully, I'll be successable in practice.
So it's success.
What's that?
So it was a success.
Man,
How do you judge? How do you judge success?
I think it would be success if I could go out there and play my game and at least try to implement some of my game plan.
But let's say this. What if you, because you lost this tournament, you're all fired up.
I am fired up,
right? You're fired up because you can tell you're like, I need, you're like, because you lost and you're like, fuck, there's a couple things I need to work on. I need to get back at this. You've already talked me and Chris Dukes. You're like, yeah, I need to do another tournament. You're like fired up more than you would be.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say you go out to this next tournament and you fucking just kill it. And you kill it as a direct relation to the sort of the lessons the takeaways that you got from this tournament.
Yeah.
If that was to happen, would you say then that tournament, with hindsight at that point, would you say that it would have been a success?
Yeah, but even if I went to the next tournament and I played my game and I did the best that I could and I went out there and I lost, I think that would be success too.
Sure.
And we talked about that. I think winning and losing doesn't necessarily make us successful. Because Jiu-Jitsu is not, man, that's just playing a game. You're playing a point game. It's like you're playing basketball. Yeah, there's guys out there that can dunk the fucking ball so much better than anybody else, but, do they play by the rules or do they take too many steps? Or, I don't know. It's just, it's a certain specific rule set. It's a game, like we talked about. Mm-hmm. And I think if I would have been able to go and play my game and,
put my positions out there and they weren't good enough, then I'd say that was successful. I didn't get a chance to do that. That for me, it was successful that I got out there and I did it and I competed against a high-level competitor at a high-level tournament, but I didn't do what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't get to show what I had practiced, and I would have liked to at least do that. That's it for me, you know. I don't know.
I mean, it's the same way for me, too. Regardless of the outcome,
right,
win or lose, you know, even if you win, there's times that you're like, if you win by a ref's decision, let's just say, for instance, I don't know about you guys, and I could probably say for all three of us in this room, like, none of us would want to win by a ref's decision or an advantage, or even, you know, if the guy has a penalty point and you're tied up, like, you want to go out there guns blazing and win by submitting your opponent, or you just completely, you know, rack up the points so high, and the guy, obviously, you know, that you're fighting is tough to submit, but you know that you walk away from that, you gave it everything you have, and you won, not necessarily by a landslide, by, you know, points, but just knowing that, you know, it wasn't due to a technicality, because to me, whether you win or lose due to something like that in a small margin, it's just like, it's kind of disappointing, and you walk away, at least I know for myself, when I've won matches where I'm like, man, I should have put that guy away. And, you know, it's, you know, you'll take the win and you'll accept it and embrace it. And, it's, you know, even the same way with the loss, you were like, man, I know I could have done a little
Okay, well, so your buddy Paul was brown belt, got silver. Okay, he was the aggressor. He was the guy going for the takedowns, trying to pass, trying to finish. So, like, Chewy, you've done a lot of these tournaments and stuff. What do you think, like, the decision is? What's, like, okay, if you have two guys that are equal on points, what's the one, like, what do you think people look for? What do these referees look for?
I mean, just a ref's decision?
Yeah, I mean, do they look for, like, okay, this guy's attacking more from bottom or attacking more from top?
And that's where you get into a lot of ambiguity. Like, you get into something where nobody really knows. It's like whatever this ref thinks,
right,
or whatever. And that's where it's like you see some weird calls where you'll see a guy, like, you know, really pressing the action, but for some reason the other guy wins a ref decision. It's like, well, that sucks. Like, you know, that's where you get, like, there should be something that says the person will be, you know, judged upon this criteria, like whoever was the most aggressive, who was, you know, this, that, whatever, not, I think this guy won, raise a hand. You know what I mean? So it's like, and to me, it's like, if you're going to, like, have Masters Worlds or something, dude, guys should be rolling for at least for an overtime. Dude.
Yeah.
There should be an overtime round. You should not, like imagine, dude, there are finals matches sometimes in Jiu-Jitsu, like, of like, big tournaments, won on a ref's decision. That fucking sucks, dude.
Right.
Like, if you're at a finals match, the gold and the silver, right, of the world championships, it should not be decided upon some other guy's, like, bias or just flip of the coin. It should be, these two dudes went at it, and there was the decision made because these two won. That was that.
So you think maybe doing some kind of rule set, like as far as like a judge's decision, they should look for maybe
they should have
more aggressiveness?
Okay, well, like the UFC, for instance. It's like, you know, the UFC's gotten much better over the years as far as their judging goes.
Sure.
Right? Remember back in the day, like, when you'd have these fights where you were like, what the fuck was this guy watching?
Right.
That happens all the time. Like, you're watching a match and the guy wins the ref's decision, you're looking at it, you're like, what the hell is this dude watching?
Right.
Like, this guy was, like, basically, like, you know, tucking his tail and running half the time. You know, so it's like, you know, it's one of those things where I think just because, you know, okay, so in wrestling, originally wrestling went into it. There's no points. It was just a pin.
Okay.
The first Olympics, the match was, I think, like about an hour or something long. And for finals match, they had to stop it one day, and then they had to restart the match the next day because they ran out of light. So then they started over again, right? And then eventually they added in a judging system where there'd be 3 judges, and they'd have little paddles. And they would just raise the paddle for whoever won. And then they had a criteria that they were based upon. And then eventually they got rid of that because they were too worried about the possible, like, favoritism that would be shown. So if you're talking about, like, the Olympics are a very political thing, right? So they're not supposed to be, but they are. And, you know, with the Soviet, like, the communist blocks and the capitalist, you know, American-led blocks, right? There was this big problem where they were like, well, you know, what happens if you get these people that are judging, you know, pro-communist or pro-American or whatever? So they're like, we need a clear-cut scoring system.
Okay.
And that's what happened. You got a clear-cut wrestling system, and that's why there's points. That's where they came from. It used to not be that way.
Oh, wow.
And I think that you need to make sure that, like, okay, jiu-jitsu, if you want it to be a legitimate sport that gets... Because, everybody's like, oh, it's the Olympics. Okay, well, if you wanted to get picked up in the Olympics, you can't have all this weird,
Chewy
like...
has the best
Well, I'm just saying, like...
voices.
I'm not really a fan of the Olympics because then what's going to happen is you're going to have one big, giant governing body, like the judo, and then basically... And then you can't have, like right now, the IBGF runs it. They're a big governing body. But you got the EBI. You got all these other tournaments running their own show. You wouldn't have that. Everybody would have to fall in line to whatever this one big organization says. So I don't like that.
That's a whole other topic, too.
Right.
Like, jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. You think it would water it down to the point where it just wouldn't be jiu-jitsu?
Well, it would have to be changed so much because, again, you couldn't have, like simple things like this where you're talking about these weird rules that don't really, they're so, like, strange and you can't really define how they work. What are you going to do? You know? So.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I gotta pee.
Eugene's going to get a potty break.
I gotta pee, guys. I got too much beer.
Are we still live?
Yeah.
Okay.
What
do you want me to talk about?
You know what I want? I want to hear, Chewy, what do you think would put jiu-jitsu in the Olympics? What would they have to do? Or Justin?
Fucking fix those rules.
What do you mean?
Okay, so...
I'm trying to go pee here.
Okay, well, you go pee. I'll talk about it.
Alright, talk about it.
So,
Out anyway.
if you're... What's that?
No, go ahead.
I mean, if you're going to put the jiu-jitsu in the Olympics, right, it has to be exciting.
Yes.
So you can't have, like, two guys, like, fucking...
Butt scooting around.
Butt scooting or, like, the leg scissoring.
Yeah.
Because it has to be digestible to the mass population. Right? So, like, for instance, judo. Everybody knows the big throw.
Yeah.
Wrestling. Big takedowns. We pin the guy.
Yeah.
So, these things are not obviously boxing, the knockout. So we have these things that are, like, iconic to their sports. Jiu-jitsu, it's a submission. It's the coup de grace, right? Like, you were done. I could have incapacitated you. Mm-hmm. So everything has to be centered around making that submission happen. So you have to get rid of a lot of, like, grips. Like, you couldn't have... You would have to... ban like paint grips like inside here, like those like the Berimbolo grips. You gotta get rid of those because if you get that paint grip, that's such a hard grip to break.
True. Or even the belt.
The belt, like your belt grip, you have to get rid of that because you get a hold of it. Good luck. I mean, I've been in a situation before. Fucking like Orlando Sanchez, had his big old bear paws in there, and I couldn't move. I tried to untie my belt and maybe tie it back up. But so you'd have to get rid of a lot of different grips so that it promotes action and makes it to where it's very harder for the person to stall. And then you would have to get into the, some of the positioning. Like I said, you couldn't have butt scooting, could not be allowed. Leg scissoring, like 50-50 stuff where guys just sit.
Scissoring.
Yeah, that couldn't be allowed.
Scissor banging.
And you'd have to legalize lots of submissions.
Justin, this is a family show, sir.
Yeah, I can tell.
And you'd have to legalize lots of submissions because if we say that what is the iconic thing of jiu-jitsu, what makes it different than every other sport is a submission. Okay, cool. Well, we've got to basically make as many submissions legal as possible, so guys have as many options as possible.
Do you think it would be? Let's just say, you have judo obviously in the gi, you have wrestling in the singlet. What do you think would be more? It would have more entertaining value for the spectator, for the broad spectrum of folks around the globe that are tuning in to watch jiu-jitsu, specifically gi or no gi?
Oh, boy.
Would that make it more exciting?
Better for the sport, and because people know they watch judo, that's just kind of a given.
I would say
lapel, you're not going to do judo.
I think that's a super easy question. I think for guys that know jiu-jitsu, the technical, grips and everything using the gi is, I think they would understand that more. But I think that no gi jiu-jitsu is faster paced. There's more offense. I think you can be less defensive.
Closer to wrestling.
Closer to wrestling with submissions, yeah. So I think people would understand it more, I think.
Like I was telling him,
that would confuse one
or
the two.
While you were taking a potty break, I think the biggest thing that because you're talking about like the stall, like the slowing down portion of the gi.
Okay.
The gi doesn't have to be slow. It is the rules that are going to dictate what happens. You watch judo matches; these guys are diving for submissions because they have such a limited amount of time, and so you have to basically say, "Listen, you got as many submissions as you want to, and then you've got to basically penalize or eliminate certain grips." Yeah. Because for instance, like the pant grip and the belt, like we were talking about the pant grip, the belt grip, those can't be legal because you can't get rid of them. If the guy gets the grip, you can't get rid of them. You might even limit time. Like say, okay, well, if you hold on to a grip, you've got like a certain amount of time to do something with that. Otherwise, you've got to move. And if you don't move, you got to let go of it. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of options you could play around with in that sense, but you've got to make sure that the rules promote action. Because, I mean, dude, there's plenty of boring no-gi matches. Like, you know, people say faster pace. Yeah, if the guy wants to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, again, it takes two to tango, right? So you got to have both guys ready to go out there, guns blazing, firing off on each other. And the way that you make sure that happens more often than not is to make sure those rules promote action. And again, you can offer people money, but when they get out there into the line of fire, people get really tentative sometimes because they don't want to lose, right? Because the sport means more to them than money.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've competed before and like won money, and money, I didn't give a shit about the money. It was about like, man, I won that match, or you know, I did that sweep really well in that match. That was what was most important. I didn't give a fuck about the money. I can make the money back, right? The money was cool, but it's like that wasn't as important. And so these guys, like, the money's a great incentive, it's a great bonus, but you've got to make sure those rules penalize everything you don't want to see and reward everything you do want to see.
No, that's a great point.
That's
a great point.
It's as simple as that. Just, you know,
I think it's a whole other can of worms for sure, but yeah, I mean, that's a great start. I mean, because I think a lot of jiu-jitsu for us, when we watch it, it's exciting because we know the technicalities in it and what they're trying to work for. Sometimes. Yeah, but I think for your regular person, like, for example, look at MMA. That people want to see people get knocked out because that's universal. People know what the fuck a knockout is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know. But you watch a guy like Damian Maia last weekend, right?
Man, but
I mean,
to us it's beautiful. It's
to us it's beautiful, dude. But I mean, but even to people that don't know shit about anything, they still watch that and be like, "That fucking dude took him down and put him in a chokehold. He put him in a chokehold, man." Yeah. Like they know what that is.
The sleeper.
Yeah, they put him in the sleeper hole, man. Like a minute first round sleeper hole.
But
you know, I understand that everybody gets more excited about the knockout because of the violence that goes with it. But people will still respond well to a fast-paced, like, attack game of submissions. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, shit, dude. I mean, what made UFC iconic? Fucking Royce Gracie's little ass, like, jumping in there, grabbing people, pulling them down into his legs, and then submitting them, right? They wanted to see the knockouts, but instead they got this fucking 170-pound Brazilian fucking choking out everyone. Like that was because the submissions were coming. That was what they saw. And this is awesome. So I mean, you've just got to make sure that, like, again, if you want to make jiu-jitsu a digestible sport to the masses, you have to make sure that the rules promote as many submissions as possible. Whether it's gi or no gi is irrelevant. It has to make sure that, like, look, guys, you've got to submit someone. Okay. You've got to go out and attack. Like, you can't sit around and, like, just like basically sit there and then, like, at the end of it be like, okay, well, you know, yay. Like,
but if you're taking away grips, is that changing jiu-jitsu?
Of course. I mean, jiu-jitsu's already been changed. We take away submissions that used to be legal. Okay. You know, you take away certain things. I mean, jiu-jitsu evolves. So it really comes down to, like, again, jiu-jitsu that is done inside the gym is not jiu-jitsu that is done in a competition. We already know this. Okay. So I mean, and everybody's trying to tweak the system and tweak the rule set. I'm just saying that, like, again, one of the things that bogs jiu-jitsu, like, matches down, especially in the gi, is you get all these different grips, and guys, like, sit literally, or position, not even grips, positions, and guys get stuck and they sit. Like, for instance, Buchecha and Urbith at the Worlds in the Absolute Division. Buchecha sitting there with his hand on his face, with his elbow on the mat, being like, fuck. Because he knows he can't make any sudden moves, because if he does, he's going to get caught in something. But at the same time, like, he doesn't want to be there. He wants to move. You watch Buchecha, he likes to go. Okay, so then that would be a great opportunity where, look, man, we're stuck in this position for X amount of seconds, boom, break, neutral. Got it. Okay. Right? So we break and then you restart, and then we get to get the action going again. You know, or you say, listen, you've had this fucking, like, lapel grip wrapped around this fucking guy's leg for, you know, a minute and a half, and you haven't done anything with it, and we're not moving, break.
So it's kind of like I guess if you equate it back to MMA, like a stand-up.
Sure.
Or like a reset.
Yeah, reset. Like, I think that, like, again, we're getting into this reset stuff now with, like, the double guard pull. If you double guard pull, both guys sit for 20 seconds, they stand them up, they both award them a penalty, and then they restart them neutral. Okay. I think that kind of stuff is really good because, again, that lets people know you can't do it. And so if you get guys, like, if they have a grip, it's like being in, like, the when you're shooting the ball and that the basketball, like where you have like the shot clock, and you have so many seconds that you can be in that certain area. Yeah. You can't be in that certain area for more than X amount of seconds without shooting the ball, right? Okay, if you got the grip, you got to fucking do something with it. You can't just get that grip and sit there. You got to make something happen with it, and if nothing happens, then you get penalized or we reset or something.
I believe it's called the lane violation.
Lane violation, okay. Ball game.
I'm not a big basketball
handball game.
True, that's a really good point, man. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But yeah, again, you're changing jiu-jitsu, which is like you said, different rule sets dictate a certain type of game people are going to play. You know, submission only, no time limit versus, you know, timed points or, you know, whatever. Yeah, or, you know, Abu Dhabi or whatever. The rules are different.
Yeah, because Abu Dhabi, like, they penalize them for guard pull. Like, if you pull guard, you get penalized. Like, so they don't want to see it. They're like, we want to see you go for a takedown. Or, if you get penalized, you better fucking move, man.
But they do 5 minutes, no points.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes, no points, and they do 5 minutes points.
Right, and if you watch those 5 minute no points rounds, guys, sometimes some guys go after it, and other guys like sit there and play very conservatively, and they wait for the points.
Sure.
Like some of the worst matches back in the day, man, were like the old Abu Dhabis. Like you'd see some of these big guys get out there, like, and they would like wait till the very end, and they would just get a takedown, boom, 2 points, and that's it. They'd sit there, and like the whole match would be them just moving around, and at the very end, boom, they get takedown, sit.
That's the one. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great point. Yeah, I hear you. Justin, about your trip, traincation, if you will, give us a little information on where can people find out more about that. Is there anything else you want to tell us about, kind of where people can find out or get more information on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested in going on this Costa Rica trip and training jiu-jitsu and learning to surf, or if you already can surf and you want to just get out there and surf some bigger waves and get some barrels and get pitted. You can find my page. I have a landing page on Facebook, on social media, which is called Costa Rica BJJ/Surf Retreats. That's the page that has the information, but also the event page that I have. If you just go onto social media and you start typing in, those keywords, Costa Rica BJJ, the event will pop up and it has all the information there. Or my website actually just went live yesterday, and that is called PuraVidaRetreats.net. That's PuraVida Retreats.net, and that has all the information. There's basically 2 packages that you could purchase into in this all-inclusive retreat, and it does not include airfare. I'll say that again, does not include the airfare, but again, keep in mind you're getting the 2-in-1, the surf and the jiu-jitsu retreat package, 2 for basically the price of 1. And on the website it has all the information. There's some blog posts on there and a video. There's actually going to be a few videos on there, but the most recent one from the last retreat, which is just like a 2-minute video that kind of encapsulates what the retreat's about. A little bit of surfing, some jiu-jitsu, some downtime, goofing off, and just overall having a good time for the full 7 days.
Is there so all belt levels are welcome?
Yeah. So if you're
age,
new,
what about age? Any age restrictions?
There is, but at the same time, what I try to do is keep the retreat to adults and up, basically 18 and up. But if someone has a teenager that trains, we try just not to have young kids running around, just for the sake of all the other retreaters.
Okay.
However, I'm not going to say that a kid can't come, but it's preferable to adults, so we can all just focus on our jiu-jitsu training and surfing and having a good time.
Chewy,
but if you have an infant or a toddler, I'm not going to say no, you can't bring them, of course. But,
right.
But yeah.
Chewy, you've been on it. What was like one of your favorite parts about it? Is there anything you kind of just stood out to you?
Well, I think the big thing that stands out is like, I think a lot of us, at least me, if you're like someone like me, you don't like being in like a congested, populated, touristy place, right? You don't want to, and you don't want to, like, for instance, like we went to Vegas and we're out there and like the touristy part, right? Like where all the lights and shit are, and it's like, man, this sucks. Just like it wasn't for me. Like I like going off the beaten path a little bit and finding new stuff and being able to, if you're going to go somewhere, like experience it. Like I remember going into Spain and I was in this like small little island town. and you got to like just experience the culture without all the bullshit that goes with it, right? Like you know was there and you're able to experience it. And so with like the thing that he's talking about, like there definitely is. It's a little surf town, so they obviously have some stuff that's geared towards, hey, you're from out of town, here's where you can get surfboards and stuff. But for the most part, when you get in there, like you're in this small little quaint town. It's very peaceful. It's quiet, and like you know you see part of Costa Rica in like its state, instead of seeing like going into some particular city where it's like you're going to get the touristy experience.
Okay.
So instead you have like a bunch of people, like again you get to sit around with a bunch of people for a week, train jiu-jitsu, surf, make these cool connections with people, and then you're surrounded by the jungle. You're not surrounded by like crazy large buildings and like signs and all this stuff. And then like when you go into town, it's a small little town. You go in there and you see local people hanging out and stuff, and you get to experience that culture in that form, rather than the like what I would imagine to be like a tourist experience. So I think that is a little bit cool, because I think the way that you get to develop bonds with people in that setting is more meaningful than it is when you do it in a setting where it's a lot more intense with that stimulation from all the other stuff going around. Yeah. And like I said, the surfing and the double package is obviously cool, but for me the best part about it was like, hey, like you're taking away from all that stuff, all the stimulation, all the just intenseness of like day-to-day city life, and if you went to some more touristy part where it would just be like in your face a lot more, it's just super super chill.
It's more like authentic kind of.
Yes, I guess you'd say authentic. Like you're just it's just you don't feel like you're in like a tourist part of town. You feel like you're in some little surf village, and then him and Dave will take you around and show you to different places, and you'll go to these little restaurants and stuff, and you can tell it's like, oh, this is some woman's little restaurant she owns out here on the beach, right? Cool. You know what I mean? It's not like some like, welcome Americans, or welcome like white people to Costa Rica. It's not like that. It's like, it's just where people go eat.
Right.
So it's like I said, it's more authentic, it's more real, and like I said, to me, that makes for more meaningful experiences, rather than just getting some sort of what's the word, manufactured experience. Sure. I guess you'd say.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, I try to bring exactly what he's talking about, and getting away from all the tourists and the hustle and bustle of what we know in everyday life. I mean, when you go there, it's just. It's like you almost set back in time a little bit, and that's what I love about it. And I wanted to, my vision for this whole, with my company, PureVitaRetreats.net, is just to, bring this same experience that I had to people that I know are looking for this. It's just the paths haven't crossed. And so my whole goal and like mission statement is to just, bring this experience of training the martial art that we love and enjoy, and that we do train throughout the week, and into a tropical paradise, in the jungle, and then also bringing surfing into somebody's life that maybe has had an interest or maybe has not ever had an interest, but willing to give it a try, because I feel like they parallel each other in so many ways, with training jiu-jitsu and surfing. You'll see a lot of guys that are, in Brazil, or even on the west coast of California, or any coast for that matter, east coast as well, that surf and train jiu-jitsu, and they get it, they understand it, they know it, and and for me, it's I really do it just for the simple fact that I see the enjoyment that people get out of it. Especially it's like learning a new move, even if you're at our level of purple belt, or even if you're a white belt, and you see someone just getting that move, and they run with it, and they're successful with it in the gym or even at a tournament. And it's the same thing. I see someone like who's a freaking black belt who's just awesome at what they do on the mat, and then they stand up for that first time surfing, and you see that look on their face, and you're like, aha! It's like learning a Kimura sweep or whatever, And so for me, that is bringing this to people and bringing it to light. Is way more enjoyable. For me, just putting it all together, and it's making it worth it. And now it's it's gaining a lot of popularity, and people are wanting to go, and people want to go on vacation anyway. So it's just going to grow and grow and get bigger and better, and hopefully I can keep it, at a very affordable price, and people still just want to keep coming back. I've had several retreaters go on the first one and go on the second one and the third one. So
awesome.
It's something that people, I think, are looking forward to do, especially when they want to go on vacation. Why not go to Costa Rica, where you can surf and train and experience that Central America and the culture surrounding it.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think whenever I travel, I've started really bringing my gi with me whenever I go somewhere, just in case.
Heck yeah.
I went to the Philippines and I didn't end up training, but I took my gi with me.
You had your gi with you.
I had it with me, man, because I was in Auburn and I went past a jiu-jitsu school and I was like, holy shit, I don't have my gi. I was so mad. I just was mad about it for the rest of the day. But no, it sounds like an amazing experience for probably jiu-jitsu people that are really into jiu-jitsu or not. Just trying to kind of... I think it seems like it's a really good experience for all levels. Because having black belt instruction, black belts are, teachers.
Yeah.
They teach and they instruct and they show moves, and I think they're, having black belts and a different caliber of jiu-jitsu players, I think really helps, all people of all levels kind of develop their game. And what's better than eating some good food, hanging on the beach, and doing jiu-jitsu and surfing. And also away from all the lights and all the touristy stuff. I think to me it's so appealing.
Yeah, very authentic. And Sean Hammonds, he's going to run our retreat this year. He's going to be my black belt.
Sean is
teaching for the week.
Awesome dude.
He's
great at guitar.
There. Oh man, yeah.
He's got great country voice.
He brings a lot to the camp, and that's
entertainment.
Specific reason why I wanted him, and having him back again for the second year.
Sean's a cool dude, man. He's an awesome guy. Chewy, where can people get a hold of you if they want to contact you with anything?
They can go to jiu-jitsu.net. Does Pura Vida Retreats.com already taken?
There is puravitaretreats.com, and it's not specifically for jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I think it is a retreat center, but
that's what I was curious, because I was like, I got a .net domain too, because jiu-jitsu.com was taken. Now those squatting bastards want $1,200 for that stupid thing. So they can go to jiu-jitsu.net, and they can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/jiu-jitsu.
Yep, and just a Pura
Vida, which it's just like Pura, PURAVIDA. So Pura Vida Retreats.net.
Awesome.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely. What was that? Game Blasses?
He said, I'm Rick James, bitch.
Oh, wow. Chewy's been drinking. He had one beer, guys. One beer. You guys, thank you for listening to the podcast. You can follow me at Jiu-Jitsu PT on Twitter and www.jujitsutherapist.com. And thank you guys for hanging out and listening. Check out Justin's site and Chewy's site. And again, guys, thank y'all for your time. It means a lot for y'all to kind of give us some information. And two badass jiu-jitsu players, man, that I learn a lot from and grind every day with, man. They're just tough, and we got the best gym in the world, man. Derby City. Come check us out in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.